Hey, thanks for sticking around for our Q&A session here as we kick off a brand new series called Follow the Leader.
Yeah.
Great way to start us off with a classic, Samson, good story. Good passage out of Judges chapters 13 through 16. Encourage you to go read that. But we had a couple good questions come in as you were talking here this morning. The first one is a really good one, and probably one that I've kind of wondered about sometimes too. But it not just in Samson, but all the stories that throughout the Judges, but Samson specifically. Before he goes on his, as you said today, killing sprees on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
The passage of Scripture always says that the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. And someone said that they found that kind of hard to deal with, that it's confusing of, why God would work that way through Samson. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you read through it, and I would challenge you to read through it and see every single time that's done.
Right.
The reason I say read through it is this. There are several feats of strength that he does that it does not say the Spirit of the Lord came on him. So he went to go sleep with a prostitute, and they were waiting outside the village to kill him in the morning, and he leaves at night, rips the gates and the doors off. There is nothing about God.
Yeah.
There's nothing about
That's
that.
all him.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I'll give you a couple examples. One that I struggle with is when he killed the 30 men to pay back the bet. I don't quite understand that one because that was definitely in his own fleshly rage.
Right.
One of our guys in church this morning said the same thing. It's oftentimes that the Spirit of the Lord came on him to give him strength doesn't mean that he used that strength properly.
Oh,
so that's
good.
one of those things too that you're like, well, it came on him maybe to get him to go back and raise up the army and do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But he instead decided to do this, and he dealt with all this. The other thing I was going to say was in that particular case where he had already made all those enemies, they were going to kill Samson, and God was just not done with him yet. God's not done with him yet. So the Spirit of the Lord comes on him to pick up a jawbone and kill 1,000 men. That's just God going, yeah, you don't mess with my guy.
Yeah.
Like every one of those people, whoever was there, was not going to stop until they killed Samson.
Right.
That's just the way it was. And so God said, the West Sideway can read it. God was like, that's my guy, I don't mess with him.
Right.
And quite frankly, you see a lot of that in the Old Testament as well.
Absolutely.
You don't mess with who God has appointed.
Right.
I think that's the best we can do on those. I don't understand every single time, outside of the fact that, there's still the piece of the pie. Just because the Spirit of the Lord came on him doesn't mean that was exactly what God, the action that followed was because that's what God approved of or wanted.
Right.
But that definitely still came about from the fact that, no, this was still God's guy.
Yeah.
That's why that statement is there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then a second question we got, kind of in relation to this story, talks about the fact that part of God's plan apparently was to use Samson to wipe out some of the Philistines for the killing. And that's not just in Samson's story, but even in the Old Testament, there's a common theme of the Philistines and Israelites. There was this enmity there.
Yeah.
But so the question was basically, why was God's plan to kill these people rather than to convert them or save them or bring them to himself?
Well, I think you may misunderstand the fact that God's plan is always to do that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, even when he told Abraham, you're going to be my guy and your people are going to be my people, and the purpose of having a people is going to be because you're going to bless the nations, right? You're going to be the ones that bless the nations. Through you, you're going to bless every other nation around you. Now, the problem is that we know from the stories of all the Israelites that they spent zero time trying to bless anybody.
Right.
They spent all their time trying to hunker down and save their own culture and save their own hide, making deals they shouldn't make. And that was part of where God wanted to purge and continue to keep his people his people. One of the big things about, in terms of historically is when they took back the land, it was one of those deals where, look, this land belongs to God's people.
Right.
Now, the hoarders and the Moabites and the Hoabites and the Philistines, they all come in and they tried to seize the land that was God's. So God's sending his people back and saying there was lots of opportunities. I'm telling you, when you read Exodus and other things, you read about the story of God delivering, going through all the nations.
Yeah.
And there were so many people that converted, right? There's so many people, the Moabites, there were places that said, no, you know what? We give it up. We're going to follow you. We're going to follow you as our God, right?
Yep.
Did I lose my stuff? Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Yep.
Did we lose something?
I think we lost everything.
Yeah, we lost everything for some reason.
All right.
Okay, cool. So I would say that the biggest thing I would say is that in that moment, you realize that some people did, but these, you would make the assumption in all of this that these are the people that basically were like, no, our God's Dagon, and your God is dumb, and we're
Yeah.
gonna destroy you. And we don't get the whole nomadic society
Right.
where it was kill or be killed. There was a lot of things I think happened in the Old Testament that I don't feel like is in our current culture. But
Yeah.
quite frankly, if you go Middle East and other places, they still kind of live that way. And so I think that there's an aspect of this that God said, well, I'm going to, within the culture that is there,
Yeah.
respond and act within the culture that's there. This wasn't
Gotcha.
a modern Western culture of tolerance and love. This was a culture of, they were going to be killed if they didn't take care of this nation.
Right.
So a lot of that just is an underlying theme
Gotcha.
of the Old Testament. You have to kind of begin to settle some of that in your own
Yeah.
mind. I don't know that he didn't want the Philistines saved.
Right.
Outside of the fact that 7,000, or I think they said 20,000, or however many it was like, look, all of these to celebrate the victory over God's judge in the arena and to give glory and honor to Dagon, God doesn't have to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, God was like, that's fine. If that's the God you choose, then,
Right.
death
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah.
So I think that's perfectly within God's freedom to do. But
Absolutely.
doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean you have to always agree with it. But
Well, and
Yeah.
as you read through Judges and even the Old Testament, it's one of those, as you said, even setting this up, the Old Testament's it's one of those books that as you read through it, it creates a lot of questions
Oh,
of
yeah.
why would he do that? Why
Yeah.
did that happen? Why did this person do that?
Yep.
So that's a cool thing. So good questions. Keep
Great
them
questions.
coming. I'm sure we'll have
Yes.
more
Oh,
as
yeah,
we
next
continue to
couple
walk
weeks.
through.
We're
I think
both-
we've got like
we're both
Gideon
speaking
and yeah.
next week and the next week here and in Denver, kind of flip-flopping.
Yeah.
So we both get to tackle Gideon
Yep.
and Samuel.
Yeah, I think it is Samuel.
So
Yeah.
Gideon and Samuel are our next two big ones.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
But yeah, so keep the questions coming. Thank you guys for sticking around. We look forward to talking with you next week. Take care.
Thanks, guys.